Dear Stardust Balance, how are you? I hope all has been well during your stay in Ponyville. My faithful student, Twilight Sparkle, has informed me that you, alongside her, have too had your fair share of adventures, and I wish to hear how you've been getting used to your new lifestyle in person. I, Princess Celestia, hereby invite you to attend a royal afternoon tea tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. exact, reserved only for you, myself, Princess Luna, and another who I am certain you shall get along with swimmingly, since you have clearly become good friends with my student. Should you agree, please ask Spike to send an acceptance letter of your approval, and if it will make you feel more comfortable, you are free to take company with you to join us. Upon your journey into Canterlot, an escort shall be awaiting your arrival at the Canterlot train station. He will be easily identifiable, I am sure. I hope to hear your reply very soon. Princess Celestia. First a thunderstorm. 2 days later, it was a train ride, and I loved both. Right now, I allowed myself a content expression while sitting back and enjoying the ride, as the rather colorful train proceeded to take I and various other ponies to the ruling kingdom that was Canterlot. Canterlot. Either paying homage to or just blatantly ripping off Camelot. Just thinking about the word alone that this kingdom was called was ridiculous enough. I don't think I could ever say it without cracking a smile. Thankfully, I had this long seat to myself, as my side glances were enough to prevent any ponies from thinking about joining me. I get a seat all of my own, and it's a window seat. What more could you want? I admit, I did not even expect Celestia to even write such a formal request to me asking for my presence so soon. I previously believed she would save her questions for that gala that's going to happen sometime in the future. Oh well. Whatever game that monarch was playing, whatever her goal was, I will be cautious at all times. More careful than I've ever been so as to not reveal too much. May as well get the whole thing over and done with before the day is done. Despite the invitation's recommendation, I chose not to bring anyone with me. Twilight was needed back in Ponyville for any episodes that could happen while I was gone, and Spike had just returned home yesterday. Plus, there was no logical reasoning behind taking any of the others with me. So in the end, I woke up earlier than I've ever been up in the town, departing out of the library before anyone even noticed. Ah, there it was. The large, majestic-looking kingdom was in clear sight from my window now. The only sign of the place before getting closer was the castle attached to the nearby mountain, and I briefly wondered how I get up there. There must be a way up for earth ponies or something. We'll see when I get there. As the populated town loomed closer by every passing mile, I felt some measure of both anticipation and nervousness well up within me. Of course, I've met Celestia before, but that was under informal circumstances. To be utterly honest, I'm not entirely sure what to expect out of this. The first thing I noticed about the train station I've arrived at was its cleaner and higher class in design than the station back at Ponyville. That alone gave me reason to roll my eyes as I walked out of the carriage. It was to be expected, but I couldn't help but think that if a simple transportation station was to be reflecting the beauty and elegance of the kingdom, imagine what the rest of the town would look like. I can't wait. Slowly leaving the carriage on wheels to across the station, already repressing the urge to just find a quiet spot and hide from the huge kingdom before me. My eyes carefully glanced over every other pony. I can see either exiting or boarding the still train. Well, I finally arrived. So where's that escort the princess mentioned? Oh, well, since I have no clue as to what my guide looked like, I suppose he or she will recognize me as the crowd disperses moment by moment. May as well keep walking around the station a little as to not get in anyone's way. Surely Celestia gave the escort a description of the visitor. Excuse me? Starless balance? Ah, right on cue. I gave a small sigh of relief before turning around to greet the evident stallion and... Oh. White body, royal looking clothing, darkish blue eyes, multiple shades of blue hair, the obvious posture of someone not to be trifled with, and looking at the stallion before him was only a few inches shorter than he was. Ah, the prince, soon to be prince, raised a small bemused smile towards me. I must have allowed my shock to be reflected in my expression. At ease, friend, I have no ill intentions. I have been sent by request of Her Highness Princess Celestia to escort you to the castle. Of course. Of all royal guards or servants, that monarch sends this guy instead. Why, it's as if the world was telling Celestia to take every step and measure possible to spite me. Why else would she send this guy to meet me here? A raised, curious brow after a period of silence. Are you already aware of my identity, sir? Oh, I recognize you all right. You contrived styling. Instead of voicing such, I let out a tight smile and replied casually, trying to get rid of this one-sided tension. I am merely taken aback that my assumption was wrong. I was expecting a guard clad in armor or something similarly royal. A quirked smile. Is my clothing not royal enough to your eyes? Not where I am from. No, sorry. No need to apologize. I shall introduce myself then. The white stallion bowed formally. My name is Shining Armor, captain of the Canterlot Royal Guards. A pleasure to make your acquaintance, Mr. Balance. Ah, yes, you. In my defense, I never anticipated being picked up by him of all guards. I thought he was busy setting wedding plans with that maid of his. So excuse me while my vocabulary isn't the best at this moment. Yes, I've heard about you. It is an honor that you, of all royal employees, would be asked to escort me, Mr. Armor. Please, just Shining will do. Is something funny? Was it that obvious? Of course it was. I was struggling to contain the laughter that threatened to burst out over his ridiculous name. My muscle releasing short chuckles while I fight to maintain my composure. I mean, come on. Shining Armor? That's not a name, that's more of a title. Who names their own kid that? It's just begging to be mocked and demeaned. Unless his parents knew of the future he was going to have, which is very unlikely. Oh, nothing, my friend. If you say so, sir. The stallion, I don't think I could call him Shining Armor even in my mind without busting a gut, said uncertainly before clearing his throat and adopting a businesslike tone. Well then, let us not keep Her Highness waiting then. Please follow. I nodded, walking behind the soon-to-be prince out of the station towards the rather lovely-looking town, filled with so many walking and talking ponies of different forms and colors. Good grief. That anxiety was already returning, slowly replacing the amusement of my escort's name. I never do well with crowds, or going outside in general, for that matter. I knew I should have brought someone with me, but I had no intention in wasting any of their time. So, yeah, I'm beginning to regret it, all right. But still, I kept my head high while walking among these friendly ponies, doing my best to ignore the curious looks sent my way. Or should I say, my escort's way. Thanks again for this, Celestia. Really, thank you from the bottom of my cold, bitter heart. I must admit, I'm a bit surprised. Ah, great. Casual conversation. The curious sounding stallion glanced over his shoulder. Princess Celestia invites individual ponies, but it's obvious you are also foreign. Not that it's any of my business, but are you perhaps a representative of your land? You're right, it isn't any of your business. If that was the case, my people would have picked a better representative, I remarked lightly. Shining Armor, though. God bless his soul. I've had that exact reaction myself when I first walked down these halls. I heard the royal captain state as my gaze focused on the interior of the halls around us as we moved across. Just wait until you see the throne room. That's something to behold. I've seen the throne room. Nothing special there, but just that cliche throne room you see everywhere, but with more color. Still, I had to admire the classy decorations and furniture around me, reminding myself that I was, for the first time in my life, walking inside a castle, though this time still ruled by a living monarch, fictional or not. Of course, there were many castles in England and Wales, but those were just ancient parts of days old. This was rather impressive, to me anyway. What makes it all the better was that I was about to meet a ruling princess inside of her own castle. But truly, it would have been grander if it was a queen I was meeting. Hang on. Please wait here while I will inform the princess you are here, Armor then said. I find addressing him both vocally and mentally as Armor than Shining assists me more in keeping a straight face. As we arrived by a large pair of doors, where anyone with half a brain knows what room was within, as the white unicorn then knocked on them, entering through the small opening and leaving in the hallway with two other guards defending the doors to the side. I swallowed some nervousness. No, you'll be fine, Stardust. You've met Celestia, and Luna, if she's in there too, before, and I doubt there's going to be attempt of mind reading or interrogation as soon as I go inside. What's the worst that can happen? I'll doubt I'll be banished to the moon, or get decapitated, and then trapped in the glacier, or get locked inside a cage guarded by a Cerberus. If they do deem me a threat, then I'll have to formulate a plan just in case things go sour in there. Fortunately, thanks to my cautious state, while others call it paranoia, apart from worrying what was going to occur in my visit here, I've been doing exactly that, planning during the train ride to Canterlot, of course. I don't believe I can take on the princesses or the royal guards. The Ursa Minor and Dragon were one thing. This was an entirely new level. I would just need to distract them long enough to make a quick escape, starting by analyzing the throne room immediately upon entering. Without warning, the large doors opened, and I raised a brow in surprise. Thought they'd slowly open it for dramatic purposes. Quickly clearing my throat before they fully opened, I adopted a posture fitting enough to look respectful when in the presence of monarchs. Though I really shouldn't be bothering. It's not as if the smiling Celestia or her curious sister had gained my respect anyway. Walking at a slow pace towards the throne, I kept my eyes fixed straight, focusing only on the two princesses instead of the blank-faced guards and aimlessly walking servants around them, or shining armor observing from the side of the steps, observing me with slight interest. But geez, everything in my forward sight was huge. Kinda empty as seen in the show, save for the throne itself and the room's occupants, but gigantic nonetheless. And there she was, in all her glory. Stardust balance, the tall white alicorn finally addressed, as I was within casual hearing distance, holding my own body to where I would presume would be a suitable place on the rug. I was beginning to think you weren't coming. Her welcoming smile seemed to brighten considerably as I took a light bow, whereas Luna remained staring openly at me, whose dark blue mane, since I last saw it, light blue, copying her siblings with her hair doing that weird flowing trick while sparkling. I think I liked it better when it was down. Anyway, gotta be careful not to screw up here. Hello, Celestia, I replied politely. Well, that wasn't difficult. The reactions afterwards began with a tray carried by a shocked servant crashing to the clean marble floor, numerous gasps echoing the throne, a huge quantity of guards dropping their jaws with wide eyes of disbelief, breaking out of their still postures and glancing in my direction, servants gawking in horror, shining armor with an expression so priceless I'd have to tell his sister about it when I return, No, I guess now it would be a matter if I go back, considering my skull malt crime just now. But I had no clue if that would be the case, since I'm not sure if Celestia's apparent amused expression meant me getting thrown into the dungeons or not. Her sibling, meanwhile, matched the many expressions of the room's occupants rather well, albeit more shocked looking than the rest. Despite the potential danger of my display of flat out disrespect, I'm finding myself very humored here. How dare you! One of the white guards, clad in golden armor, yelled in understandable rage, pointing at me as though I was vermin. To address Her Highness so blatantly, with a smile no less. Do you have no idea who you're talking to? Well, since I've always screwed up, faster than I've done in my entire life, may as well roll in dignity with it, beginning with a half-hearted shrug. Do you have any idea who you're talking to? The guard was just blistering now at the mocking tone, opening his mouth and obviously was about to issue a command to the troops to surround me. Oh yeah? You want some of this? That's quite enough. Our heads looked up to the peace-gesturing Celestia, gazing down upon her subjects and me calmly. There's no need for such attitudes. Stardust is a guest, and I expect you all to treat him as such. I raised a brow. After that act of disrespect, although completely unintentional, she expects her guards to just go along with. Oh, of course she does. She's the ruler. But, Princess, I'm aware of his lack of respect. Thank you, my little guard, but I can handle this. She switched her regal stare bleh, to the nearby servant, observing the scene with the same amount of shock and disbelief as the other occupants before standing to attention upon immediately seeing her gaze on him. Is it all prepared? At the courteous nodding, that serene smile returned, and I felt myself, for whatever reason, stand to attention as Celestia looked at me. Now then, with the greetings out of the way, dear sister, Stardust, shouting, why don't we discuss more over some tea? I nodded in clear agreement, ignoring the disapproving gazes of Armor and Luna hurled in my direction. Imagine the tall Aircorn's reaction to the fact I dislike tea. You are fortunate these are different circumstances, Stardust. Otherwise I would have been forced to set an example of discipline against that bold act. I'm just going to assume you're kidding. Ah, thank you. I took the glass cup on a small plate being offered me via floating politely. I'm getting some small amusement here from the befuddled expressions at how I'm sitting on the chair by two of the other 3 room's occupants. They sit like horses while I sit like a human. So to me, it wasn't anything to be curious about. Twilight and Spike gave me those exact looks since I've moved into the library. After that additional fiasco within the throne room, the 2 monarchs and captain of the guards escorted me to a much smaller room. I speculated it was Celestia's study, identifying from the shelves filled with scrolls, books, and letters. Everything seemed to be in a neat order. I guess she ordered her servants to tidy any mess before our arrival. And how nice! A little fireplace for us all to sit close by on our comfy chairs surrounding a table, with a tray on top as we discussed. Speaking of fireplaces, I have to ask that student's unicorn back in Ponyville why even having one and using it inside a tree was in any way not considered to her as a safety hazard. Whether I jest or not is irrelevant. You would be wise to present either me or any monarch in Equestria with respect, should you desire space instead of being thrown in a dungeon. Luckily, I am not so crude. Praise the Lord that you are the ruler of all, then, I said dramatically, ignoring the expression of disdain sent by the as of yet to be prince. If it eases you all, the display earlier wasn't intentional. Pleased to hear it, Celestia stated sincerely as the spoon swirling inside her cup of tea by itself finished, also feigning ignorance to the looks of her royal sister and loyal captain. Yet I must politely insist next time it won't happen again. No promises, I shrugged. Being completely honest myself, why not consider it as payback for not dealing with the whole dragon fiasco yourself? Yes, I'm still mad over that. It really considers on if you earn my respect over time or not. And from what I've heard about you from other MLP fans, my dear princess, your impressions to me since I've come to this world, I highly doubt that will ever happen. Now, why have you requested my presence here really? Time to get to the heart of the matter. And I swear Celestia's eyes brightened at the question, with a flicker of interest. You could at least be more formal with your question, I heard Armor mutter in disapproval from the side, while my gaze was focused on the white alicorn, who looked back at me evenly. Well, at least all the anxiousness I felt earlier diminished. Oh, allow me to rephrase myself, I began, inwardly delighting from the corner of my eye at the side glare as the taller stallion sipped on his drink. It would satisfy my curiosity to discuss the true root as to why I have been summoned to your kingdom, Princess Celestia. Also, why Mr. Armor here accompanies us in this room, especially while the rest of the castle's occupants are elsewhere. I swear I'm uncertain whether to be flattered or a little disappointed that Celestia doesn't consider me enough to be a potential threat to have guards within who are protecting the outside hallway. Taking her own sip, Celestia took a moment of satisfactory of the warm drink before talking. Both mine and Armor's intrigued attention fully on her calm posture. I believe Shining Armor deserves to know and understand the situation before any wrong conclusions are made. You seem surprised, Stardust. Well, I was. You're actually doing something close to wise for a change. But instead of really pointing that out, I shrugged. I just never thought of that, is all. My old guard here is in fact Twilight's older sibling. I'm aware. Oh, thankfully the blinking alicorn didn't press for details. Then you agree with informing him about this ordeal? Ah, screw it. Why not? Either the confused stallion observing our conversation will be skeptical at first before believing anything the monarch says, or will react in a way I will find absolutely comical, or something else. Plus, it wouldn't do any harm for Twilight's butter to be informed about the whole situation beforehand. So no quick assumptions would be made and reckless actions wouldn't be taken. Very well. Bring on the thunder. At my firm nod, Celestia nodded back at Armor. Finally took the opportunity to speak up. Pardon me for interrupting, Princess, but what is it you wished for me to know about? Shining Armor, allow me to introduce you to Stardust Barlance, resident from another world far from our own. He is currently residing with Twilight in Ponyville, so as to better understand our world and its inhabitants. Celestia took a gulp of her warm tea, relinquishing the taste while happily feigning notice of her words slowly processing in the captain's head. She continued while looking at me with interest. Speaking of which, in answer to your former question, Stardust, I wish to know, how is your time in Ponyville progressing? I shrugged, restraining the smile to leap on my face as the shocked Armor kept looking back and forth from me to the monarch. Can't complain. The residents are currently tolerable. Is that all? That's all I can think of, really. No thoughts on your housemates, or any other pony within the town in particular? Or perhaps Equestria itself? Just as I was about to reply with genuine unenthusiasm, Armor spoke up again, his tone filled with surprise. in disbelief. Hold on a second. Excuse me, Princess Celestia, but are you telling me this stallion sitting here, sharing tea with us right now, is in fact a different life form altogether from another world? Indeed I am. And he's living with Twilight? I added casually, and Spike, if that eases your concern. I'm sorry, but that just makes things seem worse to me. The white unicorn shook his head, glancing at me with a mixture of emotions. He looks like your everyday pony to me. Blame your world for that, I stated blandly. Funny thing, I've actually gotten very used to being one of their kind. Having 4 lanes wasn't such a pain. In fact, I dare say it was even fun. For the past month, I've been adapting to this new body, and I'm both troubled and relieved I've grown used to this temporary horse form so quickly. I figured it would have taken me more months or so. But still, that didn't mean I craved my old body back. Despite this new form having many qualities other than my true form, no spots all over my body, and a warmness from this bodily fur as examples, I still miss having hands to use and electronic systems to use them with. Don't give me that look. Right now it's the only reason I can think of for wanting my human body back. Oh, that, and so I can eat meat again. When I tried to devour fish in this form a few weeks ago, I vomited violently. Princess, I must protest against this. If what you say is true, how do we know this alien won't potentially harm Twilight, Spike, or any pony else? For all we know, he's dangerous and should be kept in a more guarded area so we can keep an eye on him. I found myself nodding. I agree with him, ignoring Shining Armor's surprised expression thrown at me. I set the now cold drink, which I never took a sip of, down on the round table, then leaned back and clasped my two front hosts together calmly. How do we know you can trust me as to not harm a single hair on anyone's head while I'm stuck in your world? If there was any hostility from you, I would have sensed it. Oh, so you can sense the emotions of others now. God, with every passing minute in her presence, I'm convinced this royal calm mare was a Jedi in disguise. It would explain so much. Regardless, I don't believe for a moment you have any intention of hurting anyone. You have been brought to Equestria for a reason. And while we are on that subject, have you learned anything more about your arrival here since we last spoke, Stardust? Well, that voice that speaks to me in my mind gave some vague answers about the matter a month ago. This time her expression changed to intrigue. You never mentioned last time of any voices in your head. Must have slipped my mind, I shrugged indifferently. He calls himself Spectre, and apparently the cause of my being here was all thanks to him, stating I have to carry out a few tasks for him if I ever want to return home. The tall white alicorn was obviously taking in these words with intrigue, sitting back on her seat before taking a moment to reply. Luna, meanwhile, had said absolutely nothing during our conversation, simply quietly sipping her drink and observing us all. I wonder how she's coping right now, adjusting to the new time period and changes of Equestria since 1,000 years ago. Armor continued to eye me distrustfully, and I had to admire that caution of his. But still, I despised being stared at, so I sighed and faced him completely, my tone firm. I understand your wearing this armor, and whether you believe me or not, I care little. But I have no intention whatsoever in hurting anyone in this damn world, especially your sister. And how do I know that? The stallion folded his front raised hooves, having set his tea down earlier and still looking at me with clear disdain. What would relieve me that you won't dare harm a single hair on Twilight's head? Because she's my favorite pony. What could I possibly do to harm her? Someone who took down Nightmare Boone, lullabied an Ursa Minor to sleep, and survived facing a giant dragon. I gave the blinking white alicorn a pointed look before continuing. Your world turned me into an earth pony. What possible actions, then, could I take to hurt her or anyone else? He had a counter-argument ready, and you gotta respect that caution. You can be deceitful for all I know. You could be tricking her into trusting you, and you could be using her for your own ends. This time it was Celestia who spoke before I could, having evidently observed the argument calmly. You need not worry, Shining. I would never throw my beloved student in harm's way if I didn't believe she wasn't capable of handling the matter. You must trust me on this. As the stallion reluctantly conceded with the princess's rather weak point, the Alcorn continued to address me. Did this specter tell you what your first task entails? Indeed. I must begin making friends with your world's inhabitants, beginning with Twilight and her friends. I see. Celestia looked down slightly, in clear contemplation for a moment, before looking back up. Well then, Stardust, I must thank you. You have given me much to dwell upon. I have never heard of someone named Spectre before. Perhaps more information will be found somewhere in the Counterlot's Grand Library. Oh, which reminds me. Speaking of information, I began hesitantly. I looked around Twilight's own library in Ponyville for any information to possibly send me home. Though I haven't done that for a while now, having given up because it was clear there wouldn't be anything reliable about the subject there. And have you discovered anything? In short, nothing. Celestia seemed to share my disappointed expression with a similar sigh. I regret to inform you then, Stardust, that I too have been researching for any clues as to how to send you home, or about your state in general. I get the feeling this doesn't sound well for me. I'm sorry, but I have currently uncovered nothing insignificant. As I said last time, this may take a while. For now, I believe it's best you abide the Spectre's rules. But on the bright side, I'm certain with how much time you have spent in Ponyville, you've already grown close to my faithful student and her friends. Ah, I suspected as much. I admitted with a tinge of bitterness in my tone, ignoring that last sentence of the Alcorns completely. There goes my last shred of hope to defy that voice and return home to where my worried, sick family was waiting. I am truly sorry, Stardust. I know this must be severely disappointing to you. I shrugged. It's fine. None of this is your fault or anyone else's but that damn voice. An amused yet still apologetic smile. Very well, we will discuss more later, as my dear sister and I have royal duties to attend now. For now, why don't you go about and explore the kingdom? I'm sure there will be plenty of things out there that will pique your interest. Oh, I highly doubt that. But I slowly nodded anyway, stretching my limbs casually. Why not? I have all the time in the world. I don't doubt that. I will send a letter to Twilight telling her your stay in Camelot will be extended a little. And I shall also provide you with an escort so you won't find yourself lost in the rather large town. I'll do it. Our heads immediately turned to the blunt stallion, and I raised a brow at the surprising gall of him. Elmer then cleared his throat and bowed lightly at his bemused monarch. With respect, Princess, I would like to accompany our friend here and show him around the kingdom. I restrained the urge to snort, obviously to keep an eye on me and make sure I don't cause any trouble. And I don't like the way he said friend, but I kept my gaze evenly against his own, emphasizing that I knew exactly what he was up to. A sound idea, Shining Armor, Celestia concurred, and I simply shrugged at her inquiring gaze. Two can play this game, my cautious friend, though I wonder how he'll react as to exactly how much concern and fondness his sister had over me. And believe me, my friend, I never asked for such. While I am not approving of the caring Twilight showed towards me, I think I might get a laugh out of it if Armor here learns about it. But before you go, Stardust, I would like to inform you that I will be visiting Ponyville sometime soon in the future. Okay, good for you. That's nice, I said uncertainly. I don't see why she even bothered telling me this. But does this Alicorn want me to prepare a welcome party beforehand? Have your own student do it. A moment, if I might inquire. And she speaks at last. Just as we were about to get up, three heads quickly turned to the previously silent Princess of the Night. Blue, intrigued, yet nervous-looking eyes observing me as she proceeds with her question. Why does thou wish to return to his world so earnestly? Surely this world doesn't bother thou so? Old English, gotta love it. Smiling at the old traditional usage of words, I replied honestly. I have a family back home, Luna, I continued. Well, she blinked at this prospect. And there's nothing of more great importance than family. The Blue Monarch took in my words slowly before nodding in agreement. Words that could never be more true, Celestia concurred approvingly. And Armor looked at me with a mixture from what I could gather was weariness and interest. There's a lot of interest going around here today.